Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I'm speaking to you live from a random hotel room in Tribeca. But I'm excited to share with you the next installment of the weekly portion. We are entering the second book of the Torah, the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, which is very exciting. Firstly, because the book of Exodus basically begins the rest of the Torah. The people that we talk about for pretty much the rest of the Torah are Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Pretty much for the rest of the Torah, and we're meeting them. We're meeting at least Moses and Miriam this week. So we are 120 years into the Jewish people's stay in Egypt. That's 120 years since Jacob came to Joseph in Egypt. The Jewish people have been living in the land of Goshen, this separate kind of area in Egypt, and they've been thriving. They've been doing really well. And Pharaoh does not like this. Pharaoh gets a prophecy that there is a Hebrew baby boy who's going to rise up and free the Jewish people. And so obviously the Jews have been doing well, but then Pharaoh puts them under slavery and makes them slaves in Egypt. And so they're still doing well, they're still thriving, still having lots and lots of kids. And Pharaoh's like, nope, can't have this. So he demands that all Hebrew baby boys should be thrown into the Nile. First of all, to avoid the fact that the Jewish people are thriving, but secondly, so that a Hebrew baby boy won't grow up and be successful and take over Egypt. Enter Yocheved. Yocheved is the daughter of Levi, the granddaughter of Yaakov of Jacob. She has a baby boy, and she hides him for as long as she can. But after 3 months of him being born, she can't hide him any longer, and so she puts him in the Nile, hoping for a better life. Well, we think maybe she's putting him in the Nile for better life. There's other interpretations that Moses maybe was born 3 months premature. And so he had been born at 6 months. And so she could only hide him until he was 3 months old. Because that's the full term of pregnancy. So maybe she hid him. She was only able to hide him after 3 months. And then she had to go tell them, no, I lost the baby. I'm not pregnant anymore, just to prove to them, to prove to the Egyptians. The other interpretation that maybe she was just leaving him in the Nile for a little bit. She was going to go tell him, hey, no, I'm good, and come back and get him. But whatever the situation was, the baby floats down the Nile to the area of the Nile where Pharaoh's daughter was bathing. She sees this crying baby and assumes this must be a Hebrew baby, and she has sympathy. She has compassion for him and takes him in, naming him Moshe, which means for I drew him from the water. Min Hamaim Meshitihu. Moshe Meshitihu. You see where she gets that from. Miriam, the daughter of Yocheved, Moses' sister, watches this whole thing happen. The next information we get from the Torah is that Miriam comes to Pharaoh's daughter and says, would you like me to get his mother to be his nursemaid? And Pharaoh's daughter is like, cool. Okay, so fine, that makes sense. But why in the world would Pharaoh's daughter be okay with the mother of this child nursing him? What's the deal? So commentary tells us that Moshe had been taken to every single Egyptian nursemaid, the best nursemaids, the most expensive ones, and he refused to nurse from any of them. So it got to the point where she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do for this baby. And so Miriam, being the smart, cunning gal that she is, comes and says, no, I'll get you this child's mother. Not pretending that she's his sister. She's just a very, very smart lady. So Moses is taken in by Pharaoh's daughter and also nursed by Yocheved, his mother. Incredible. These are extremely formative times in a child's life. And the fact that he was still being nursed by his actual mother, it's extremely interesting. We also start to see a pattern of really important women in Moshe's life. Firstly, Moshe would have been thrown into the Nile if Yocheved wouldn't have made the huge, brave choice to put him into the Nile, to send him off for a better life. Then if Miriam wouldn't have followed along watching where Moshe was, he would have starved to death. He wouldn't have been able to be able to nurse from anyone. And then Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh. We call her Batya. It's not really her name. Then the daughter of Pharaoh. Can you imagine the greatest dictator that hates all Jews to take in a Hebrew baby? What incredible kindness and compassion in someone. God says to her, you took in Moshe like your son, even though he was not yours. And so I will take you in like my daughter, even though you are not my daughter. And that's why we call her Batya, meaning the daughter of God. Really, really beautiful. She's an amazing character. So like I said, we have these really important women in Moshe's life. He's not, he obviously gets the glory. I would say he probably is the most famous person in the Torah, but he only really is here because of the strong and brave women in his life. So Moshe grows up in the palace. Eventually, we think he finds out that he is a Hebrew. Maybe Batya is big into your heritage is this, your heritage is that. So he grows up knowing that he's a Hebrew, and maybe for the first time he goes out and sees how his fellow Hebrews are being treated. He sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating a fellow Hebrew, and he's filled with this anger. I mean, it's not written in the Torah, but he is very upset at this. He feels maybe this bond, this connection with his people, achdut, brotherhood, with his fellow Jewish people, and he looks around and then strikes down the Egyptian, killing him and hiding him in the sand. So when you hear that he was looking around, I would think that he's saying, he's looking, okay, is anybody going to see me commit this crime? No, commentary tells us that he was looking around and saw that there was no one there to do anything. Not that there was no one there, period. People saw him, and that's why he had to run eventually after killing the Egyptian. No, no, no. He acted because no one else would. Moshe, this is his first act that we learn about of greatness. He's a great guy. He is, one of the greatest in the Torah. But this is the first. This is the first that we hear of it. So Moshe acts. He protects his fellow Ivri, and then runs. He runs to the desert of Midian. In the desert of Midian, he ends up by this well. Of course, this is where all romances happen. Everyone should be hanging out at the well, I guess. He's at the well, and he ends up meeting Zipporah and her sisters. Zipporah is the daughter of a high priest in Midian named Jethro or Yitro, and so he ends up marrying Zipporah. He has a nice life, minding Yitro's sheep in the desert of Midian. And many years later, he's minding the sheep. He's out just in the desert, and he sees a bush that is burning but isn't being consumed. And he hears the voice of God speaking from the fire. And God says, Moshe, I've seen the way that my people are suffering in Egypt, and it's time for me to take them out. And you are going to be my mouthpiece. You are going to be the person to take them out. And Moshe immediately is like, no. Why me? Who am I to go to Pharaoh? All these things. What if they don't listen to me? What if they don't believe that I've spoken to you? He asks all these questions. It's incredible. He has so much doubt. We've never heard doubt from someone in the Torah. We hear that when Abraham is instructed to kill his own son, he doesn't say anything. Moshe is just asked to go to free the people from Egypt, and he's like, not me. Who am I? I'm not a man of words. I have a speech impediment, which is what we interpret from the text. It says that I'm heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. To which God replies, am I not the person who gives people speech? Am I not the person who makes anyone blind, deaf, dumb, or mute? Am I not the person who did this? Meaning, Moshe, you're telling me that I don't know, as if I don't know these things about you. No, I know these things about you, and that's why you are the leader. This is extremely moving. A lot of times we have to kind of have to read into the text when we read the Torah. We don't have to do any reading into it. Literally, Moshe says, I have these flaws. And God says, I gave you those flaws. That's all we need to know. I find that so moving. So firstly, if you just want to think about maybe your top 3 flaws that you feel about yourself, and then think about, okay, well, I wasn't like they just appeared out of nowhere. They were bestowed upon you as a gift by God. So think about this. What are your greatest flaws? And how have they made you a better person? How have they grounded you? Have they humbled you? It's a really special thing that the greatest leader in all of Jewish history, Moshe Rabbeinu, had like a serious stutter. We think that maybe he had a stutter, it's not totally clear. Different interpretations tell us different things. But how amazing that having flaws doesn't mean that you can't be a leader. Having flaws makes you a leader, because being flawed makes you human, and humans are able to lead other humans. Really cool idea. Reflect on this. Please converse if you have any ideas. And I'll see you all next week. Shabbat Shalom.